Hey everyone, welcome back to Pushing Film, and today I'm bringing you a short review on one of my favorite cheap color films, which is Fuji C200, sometimes otherwise known as Fujicolor C200. So, there's going to be a nice and quick look at some of the shots I've taken on this film throughout the years. So what we're going to do is jump on the computer, have a look at some of the favorites I've chosen here on Lightroom, and take you guys through some of that. Alright, so one of the first shots I've got here is a shot taken outdoors just on the street. And one of the first things I really want to encourage about this film is it's a great film to overexpose. So with Fuji C200, I generally shoot it at 100, including this shot here, taken on the Nikon FE. And just in late afternoon light, you can see that it has that really nice, rich characteristic that you sometimes get with pro-grade films, and yet still really good shadow detail. All right, let's move to one of the next shots. So this one here was taken in Perth, similar conditions, sunny, overexposed shot at 100. Again, doing that gives you that nice detail in the shadows. It's probably less saturated than some other films, but I really quite like how it looks in bright conditions overexposed. This one, another classic outdoor late afternoon shot. What it really exemplifies is how nice those reds look. So it really has that pop of red compared to everything else being a little bit more subdued. I've got another shot here with a lot of red in it. This one's again in Perth, taken on the Nikon FE, and just again, those reds just pop really well, and the blues don't oversaturate, but they have a really nice characteristics, especially next to the greens here. You can see the trees and everything has a really nice look. This one here is just a shot full of blue, and again, you got that nice sort of blue-green turquoise characteristic in the sky, and shot on the Nikon FE 28mm lens, just late afternoon with the person kayaking down here, sorry. So let's move on to another one. And this one, again, Nikon FE, shot outdoors, late afternoon. I might have overexposed this one a little bit too much. You can see the highlights are blowing out, except it still doesn't look too bad. Like, the good thing about film is when highlights blow out, it doesn't look as bad as it does on digital. You can still make out what's going on there. The sky's gone completely white, so in hindsight, maybe I could have exposed this more for the midtones, which I think I didn't do. I made it for the shadows. But again, this is a cheap film stock. Maybe if this was something like a pro film, such as Portra 400H, it would have held up a lot better in the highlights and in the shadows, but it is a cheap film, so you can push the boundaries with overexposure, but I probably wouldn't go more than a few stops over, unless you want this look. Some people like the sky to go completely white, so it's still up to you. All right, we've got another shot here. Again, showing off those great colors. A lot of people shy away from cheap films, thinking they won't really get that sharp, vivid look that you can with some more expensive films, but I find C200's a great one, especially overexposing it. Again, it just works really well. The highlights haven't completely blown out, and you've got nice, rich colors throughout. So let's look at more. This one's probably another one, a lot of the same, again showing off great greens, and even here you got that purple, the jacaranda tree over in Perth, and the warm tones look really good. This is late afternoon, and again, very sharp, very vivid, and it's got that nice pastel sort of Fuji overexposed look. Another shot here, similar conditions, a little bit cool in the shadows, which is something you'll get with pretty much any color negative film. This one, detail shot of a car. Again, film is very sharp. This is a low-res frontier scan, and you can just see amazing amounts of detail. Sure, a lot of that has to do with the lens, but on the film side of things, Fuji C200 still holds up quite well. All right, we've got some portraits happening now. So this is a shot of my brother, owner of the car in the previous shot. Great for portraits. Again, overexposed by one stop, muted for the shadows, great skin tones, can't go wrong. Another portrait here of Sarah. Similar sort of situation, overexposed, and with a great blue-green background. The color palette works really well here with a denim jacket, and it just really ties it together. And for a cheap $5 or $6 film, this sort of blew me away when I saw some shots like this one. This one is another portrait, or I guess it's double exposure, of my friend Nathan. Again, showing off great reds. Another one here, double exposure. This one, the light was going away, so I couldn't overexpose as much as I normally would have. But because it's double exposure, it's sort of even back out. But with 100 speed, I'm probably shooting at f2 here, and you see that you don't get as much shadow detail when you're not overexposing by a stop, but it still holds up really well, and you get that more muted look with more grain in the shadows. So with some street photography, I have used this film as well. It's not really a go-to, but if it's in the camera, I'm not afraid to use it on the street. What I really like about it is it has a really neutral color palette. So whites look pretty white. They might have sometimes a bit of a magenta tint in the whites, but everything else, it looks quite neutral. The contrast isn't too high, saturation isn't too high. It's just a great overall neutral film. And for shooting street, you've got shots like this one, again showing off the great skin tones and the blue greens you get from Fuji, and even some of those reds quite stand out, but without any of that sort of bronze or yellow tint that you might get with some Kodak films like Kodak Gold or Pro Image. Even though I love those films, C200 is one of my favorites because of its price and the way it looks when you shoot it at 100 like this. Another street shot here with a much warmer light. So this one, it's sort of exposing not for the shadows, but for the mid-tones or highlights even. You see that when you don't expose to the shadows, the attention goes to the highlights. So what I've got here is some shots that were used in a point and shoot camera. This was off on a photo shoot that I was assisting on. I had the point and shoot just with me in my pocket, just taking some behind the scenes shots. It doesn't have that same characteristic. A lot of that is because of the lens in the point and shoot camera as well, but it's not overexposed. And again, you see that sort of lack of having as much detail in the shadows. It goes a little bit muddy, a little bit grainy. It just looks like a pretty good overall normal film, but it doesn't shine like it does when I overexpose those other shots. Same situation here. Point and shoot camera, box speed, great overall, but it doesn't really stand out as much. Another shot from the same location in Japan. And as you can see with these shots, they're all from the point and shoot. It doesn't really stand out as much, which again might be due to the fact that I use it in a point and shoot camera, but you can see there's a different look to it when it's just shot at box speed with average metering. This one here, it does have a bit of that look. I think the meter was tricked by some of the darker tones in the concrete here and just that plain background. So for whatever reason, this one looks a little bit brighter, more of that pastel look. The colors pop a little bit more. And I think this one effectively was a bit on the higher side with the exposure. So what I've also got is some nighttime shots. I've taken a few nighttime shots on C200, but again, amazing detail, low res scan on frontier, great neutrals. It balanced really well in the scan. You've got a little bit of that blue-green in the shadows, which is normal, but I wouldn't be afraid to use this film at nighttime because it's a medium or low speed. The grain characters, it's there, but it's not too bad. It's not too much. So it doesn't take away from the detail in the shots. Got another nighttime shot here. I think with this one, I didn't have a tripod. This was actually taken out of the window, the driver's side, which in Australia is on the right-hand side. I'm leaning out the window, leaning the camera on the windscreen, so lack of tripod, and couldn't do too long of an exposure here. So you can see it has a different look to it, but again, a perfectly usable film at nighttime. All right, guys, so I hope you enjoyed looking through some of those shots of Fuji C200. Hopefully you can see why it's one of my favorite cheap color films. And there's a few reviews that are more in-depth out there, so I'm not going to go into too much detail on the film. I just wanted to give you a quick look at my perspective and my observations shooting this film. So one of the main takeaways is try shooting it at 100. As you can see with some of those shots that we were looking at towards the beginning, quite a big difference compared to when it's shot at box speed. So I think that's one thing that might scare people away or shy away from some cheap films is you might not get good results due to metering, but if you do the classic thing of overexposing a little bit, especially with this film, it seems to work really well. So again, highly recommended. Looks good, great colors, good sharpness, good neutrality on it. So it's just a great overall film to keep in your fridge, and you can get it pretty cheap. It even comes in 3 packs. And for single rolls, I think the price is usually about $5, $6, at least here in Australia. So I would recommend buying it online. Sometimes in stores, they can charge a fair bit more. So for all the Aussie watchers at the moment, I would recommend Walkens House of Film. I'll put a link to the site down in the description. Great website for buying film in Australia. I think it even ships internationally, but for the international buyers, it might be better to get it through Amazon, or even locally with Amazon, there's a great deal on, I think, a 10 roll pack for somewhere between 30 and 40 US dollars. So that makes it just really good bang for your buck per roll, and go out and try it if you haven't already. All right, guys, so thanks for watching this quick review on Fuji C200, and I'll catch you on the next video.